Hi, Athena.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, well, thanks so much
Yeah,
for being with us tonight. It's really fun to see your face and be able to
yeah.
chat face to face.
Yes, excellent.
This is the end of a busy work day for you, so I appreciate
It
you
is.
taking the time. So you've
Yeah.
got a lot of kind of exciting things coming up. I know we talked in the written interview that you're going to the Forbes Leadership Conference. It's Women in Leadership, right? It's
Forbes Women's Summit. Yes.
Women's Summit.
hmm
And that's next week?
It is. Monday. I'll be going Monday and coming back on Wednesday.
Okay.
So it should be. It's in New York. So the first actually conference day is on Tuesday. So it should be pretty cool.
All right. So are you doing anything fun in New York while you're there?
I'm not sure. I've actually never been to New York by myself.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm taking the train up. I'm gonna hang out a little bit. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on Wednesday. I think I might go to like the Empire State Building because I've never been.
Yeah.
Maybe Statue of Liberty if I can get a ticket somehow magically, but I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
just the fact that I'm going is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, what an exciting thing to be invited to attend that. You have had some kind of exciting things. You just recently had your essay published in Roxane Gay's new magazine.
I did.
What is this kind of time like for you as you've got kind of these exciting things happening?
It's interesting because I always felt like my writing journey and my writing path has been kind of slow compared to other people. So it's interesting to now see kind of like these little pieces of fruit from all the seeds I've been planting over the last couple of years. And to understand that this particular moment in time I kind of earned. And I think that I kind of, in a way, I think I've had conversations with people about imposter syndrome and feeling like maybe I don't deserve what I have, but the fact that I'm kind of seeing the result of putting in the work and kind of putting my head down and writing is amazing. It
Yeah.
actually is like that publication. I honestly sent that essay thinking, okay, they're going to say no, but at least they'll know something that I've written. And when I got that email on my way to work that morning, I kind of like had to stop at a red light and kind of like smile and scream in my car a little bit.
I was going to say, I hope you screamed a little bit.
I did.
Yeah. And what was it like kind of being part of the debut of this magazine?
It was very, it was cool. It was a little overwhelming in a way because I felt like, okay, people are going to be reading it and they're going to be like, so what did she do? Why is she in this particular issue? But everything from the people who've read it and talked to me, they really enjoyed it. And it's kind of, in some ways, opened a couple of doors that I didn't expect to open. So I'm really appreciative of this essay that I wrote on my phone on a plane and really
That's awesome.
get published.
Isn't it amazing when those things kind of happen where it's like the work that we're not necessarily sure about becomes the thing, that kind of opens those doors?
And it was like the essay that I've been working on this one particular essay for about 2 years. And I wrote this essay, like I said, on my phone. I came home, I edited it a bit and kind of sat on it for a few weeks. And to see that essay, which started in February, now in May, be published. And
Right.
this other essay I've been working over 2 years, which is like my heart. It's kind of like a weird juxtaposition, but I'll take it
Yeah.
because it's an amazing opportunity.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're going to New York City, you've
Mhm.
had, this big publication,
Mhm.
and so your journey is kind of, you're on this trajectory that looks pretty bright.
Yeah.
What has kind of the journey been like up until this point? Kind of what got you started on this journey?
I was an only child for like 12 years. And so I'm from a little town in Ohio. And so being a kind of shy person, everything that I did was related to writing and some kind of imagination. So I started writing what I now know is fan fiction when I was a kid. At the time, I thought I just really liked these particular groups of people and I wanted to write stories about them. So I would get these notebooks and just write whole notebooks full of stories with like chapters and original characters. And they're actually still at my parents' house in a suitcase in my old bedroom. Um, so I started writing stories, and then some of my teachers and my orchestra instructor found out that I could write. So I started doing like speeches at school, and I worked for the school newsletter. I got to college. I was a magazine journalism major until kind of I felt like I couldn't write. and didn't have a lot of kind of support in my writing when I was in college that freshman year. I switched and got a sociology degree instead, and eventually convinced myself that I was a writer. I went back to undergraduate school, got a second bachelor's degree in English, and then I got to go to Provincetown one summer. And my instructor was like, have you ever considered graduate school? And I was like, no, I'm not going to get into grad school. That was in August. I applied and I started grad school in January.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really quick. And then from there, I concentrated in poetry. I'm a poet first, got my master's degree, and it wasn't until about maybe 7 years ago that I started writing prose, like seriously, and I haven't really written a poem since. I've completely abandoned poetry for prose at this point, and I feel kind of bad, but prose is
Well, you have, I mean, your published book is a chapbook in poetry,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you kind of go in waves in what genre feels appealing at the time?
Currently, not really. The chapbook, which I really was surprised came out as well, was a combination of older pieces and a couple of pieces that I wrote in maybe 2015, maybe, like in response to things that were going on in the news. But I think that prose is kind of my baby now.
Yeah.
I haven't had an inkling to write a poem at all. Everything I write has turned into prose. A lot of people who have read my prose, especially the collection that I'm working on now, says that I sound like a poet writing prose. So I guess it's still there. It's just not the focal
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of poets I know who write prose, there's still, such a beautiful lyrical voice that they have. And I think that comes from, kind of that poetic background. And it seems like for you, your writing certainly has that lyricism to it. So it definitely, the poet in you still comes out, I think.
And I think it does as well because I don't use a lot of dialogue in my prose. And I think that's because I'm so used to focusing on image and poetry that I don't have the comfort level with dialogue. So that's one of the things I'm working on. But I definitely see that I'm so focused on image that my poet is always there.
So when you're working on things like dialogue, what do you do to work on it? Like, how do you kind of hone that piece of your craft?
What I'm working on right now is just kind of remembering the things that stuck with me. One of the things I used to do when I was writing poetry is I would write a poem, and if I really liked it, I would kind of leave it alone and come back to it and see what I could actually write from memory. And the things that I could remember were the important things.
Yeah.
So when I approach dialogue, I'm thinking, what are the lines that people have said to me or things that have happened in my lifetime that stuck with me all these years later? Now I'm writing. So if you read one of my essays, you'll see maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 lines of dialogue, and that's because those are like the punches that kind of accented that particular scene. That for me, I'd rather kind of build the scene and have that one punch than kind of bog it down with dialogue that I feel like is not as strong because I really don't remember how the conversation went.
Yeah.
I'd rather have just had the one thing that was the memorable piece.
Sure.
And then build everything around that.
Yeah. And do you read kind of, while you're reading right now, do you read kind of thinking, oh, how did this writer do dialogue? What are they, do you kind of, or does it kind of come more naturally to you?
I think it's more natural because the things that I've really enjoyed reading recently have all had very good dialogue, but I've been more focused on how they set the scene than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think through kind of that scene setting, that's where the dialogue comes. Like I'm writing a piece about an ex of mine, and the opening line is something that he said to me. And I think there's maybe one other line in the rest of the piece, but from the people who have read it, they've said it's made a lot of sense because it's not about what he said. It's kind of like the ripple effect of what he said. So I'm more interested really in how we're reacting to the things that are said actually versus what's actually said.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard balance to find, right? And especially if you're writing memoir, there's a lot of debate about how much dialogue should be in there because how much is it going to be believable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of the belief that you try to capture the spirit of the conversation more so than the exact wording, but you do want there to be a level of truth to the word
Exactly.
too, especially if it's something like that where it's starting the piece. So.
And I think too, depending on how you're writing that particular piece, it determines how much dialogue is going to be there. So if I'm writing something that's very much written in the present tense, even though it happened in the past, I'm going to try to include more dialogue because I want it to be immersive versus me retelling something. I'm not going to have as much dialogue because I think that I may be an unreliable narrator in that situation. And I don't want to compromise the actual story and the spirit of what I'm writing by trying to force in dialogue that may not be necessarily important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you said that you're reading right now things, and kind of focusing on seed. What are some of the things you are reading right now?
I'm currently reading Womanish by Kim McLaren. I'm rereading Sonic Memories by Kia Jefferson. I just finished How to Sit by Tyrese Coleman. And I have to read Jeannie Vanasco's The Glass Eye, which I started, but I haven't finished yet. I have a tendency to read multiple books at a time. And I'm always reading fan fiction. So if I'm not reading something serious, I'm reading some measure of fan fiction every day.
So the fan fiction, when you started, I want to go back to that conversation a little bit. When you started, you were saying, you kind of wrote beyond some of the things you were reading. What were some of the books that kind of led you to be writing fan fiction, or were there movies, or was it,
There weren't necessarily things I was reading. There's individual people. I was really obsessed with Jake Sisko from Deep Space Nine when I was a kid. And so I wrote fan fiction about Star Trek. I was really obsessed with a group called Another Bad Creation, so I wrote a lot of fan fiction about them. But when I was a kid, I read the encyclopedia. I know that was like super nerdy, but I had an entire set of encyclopedias at my house, and I read every single one of them front to back.
Wow.
So between music and reading the encyclopedia, that's how I came up with my ideas to write things. And it wasn't until I kind of got to college that I started having books that I felt like impacted me enough where I really, truly, truly remembered them. The first that really was Their Eyes Are Watching God, which is my favorite book, absolutely, which took me multiple readings to be able to get into. And then once I got it and it clicked in my head, I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fan fiction was really just a direct response to being in love with this fictional character when I was a kid and wanting to kind of explore other stories and set this space fantasy forward. So that's how it kind of started.
So you still write it?
I do.
And what is some of the fan fiction you're writing right now?
I primarily write Black Panther fan fiction. When the movie came out last year, I was really, really, really into it. I like to tell people it was kind of like my Star Wars and my Harry Potter. Yeah. Like I was sat in the theater. It's the first movie I've ever seen multiple times in theaters. I saw it 4 times in theaters, and not counting how many times I've seen it since. So I was really looking to other fans who were really, really interested in, who wanted to kind of like delve more into the world, especially the Jabari tribe, because M'Baku is my favorite character. And I found this collection of Black female fan fiction writers online, and that was in February of last year, and I've written hundreds of thousands of words of fan fiction since.
That's wonderful. I mean, what a contrast, right? To, kind of the serious poetry that you're doing and the literary, you're doing, nonfiction, and you're also, I know you're working on a novel too, right?
I am. Yeah.
You're kind of, you're somebody, first of all, you're a writer with a day job.
Yes.
So you've got, a full-time day job. Mm-hmm. And then you seem to be somebody who can manage multiple projects at a time.
I'm trying. I have a lot of things on my plate on the average a day. So like between the fan fiction, which has an amazing like community of writers who should be writing like screenplays, to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
Between that, the literary journal, the podcast, the collection of essays I'm almost finished with, the novel, the screenplay, and like panels and things. Yeah, I have a lot. And a day job, of course.
Right.
I have a lot going on, like a lot.
So talk a little bit about how you make time for your writing. You, like you said, you have a day job, but you've got all these other literary things that you're keeping going, including being an editor. And, how do you keep it all, what do you do to kind of carve out that space for yourself?
The first thing I do is every single morning when I get to work, I open a Word document on my desktop. So between clients, between cases, on lunch break, on breaks, during the course of the day, I write whatever comes in my head. And I think too, what helps is my coworkers, some of them have read my writing, some of them have not, but they all know how serious I am about it. So if they come by my desk and they see me typing away in a Word document, they leave me alone because they know that I might need 5 minutes to kind of get it out of my head and then go about my business. So I work on a Word document every single morning when I get to work, and whatever I have at the end of the day, I email myself. And then when I get home in the afternoon, I copy and paste that into what I was working on before. So I always have like the thread of what I worked on at home with me at work. So I just have to bridge the sections when I get home. I utilize Google Calendars all the time. It keeps me between like meetings and conference calls and events. That's how I keep that together. My weekends really do consist of, unless I have somewhere to be, consist of me being in my apartment with no TV, no music, just writing.
Yeah.
I try to cram as much writing as I can into the weekends. Especially for me, the way that I read everything I write aloud multiple times. So I might write a paragraph and go back and read it aloud and then add a line and go back and read it again. So it's a lot of labor intensive writing because I want to hear what it sounds like. I try my best to delegate. I recently stepped back from editor-in-chief of the journal. When we went to quarterly, I let Gabrielle, who is our editor-in-chief now, take over. So I consult, but I purposely stepped back so I could have a chance to finish my book. I also tried to space things out, learn how to say no. That was the biggest issue when I couldn't balance this.
Sure.
But I really do go to work Monday through Friday, come home, eat, and get right back on the computer until I go to sleep.
Do you get to sleep? Do you ever sleep?
I do. I put my phone on hibernation between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. I wake up at 5:30. And that's when I check all my notifications and my emails, and what I can answer, I answer. And if not, it waits until the evening. But I do sleep.
Yeah.
There's this line that the Hulk says in the Avengers when he's telling them he's figured out his powers, and he says the secret is he's always angry. And I tell people the secret is that I'm always tired.
Yeah.
It's just what level of tired am I on that particular day? But it gets done.
Yeah.
It gets done. I don't know how sometimes, but it does.
Well, it sounds like getting it done and it getting done is proving to be very successful. I really love what you said earlier about, you've earned this place that you find yourself at, where you're getting recognition for your writing, you're getting these opportunities to speak, you're getting these opportunities to kind of schmooze. Are you feeling a little starstruck going to New York City?
I am. I really am. I'm looking at some of the people who are going to be there. I'm like, oh my God. I called my mother the other day and she's like, just be in the room. She's like, it doesn't matter what happens. The fact that you're in the room is all that matters because somebody's going to remember that you were in the room.
Absolutely.
She's like, so whatever comes of it, comes of it. But understand. And my father too, he's very fond of saying that he raised me to be among the upper echelon. That's his favorite thing. So he's like, don't think that you don't deserve to be where you are. He's like, you worked very hard. You went to college all those years. You worked your way through college. You hold down all these different things. And there's a talent there that you need to kind of accept and recognize. So it's been a struggle to kind of recognize it at times, but my dad said I'm talented, so.
Well, I think our parents are wise. I think it's important to listen to them. And I think, you absolutely deserve everything that's coming your way. And we're so excited here at Moving Forwards for you.
Yeah.
We're really excited to hear about all that's coming next for you. If people want to be in touch with you or get more information about you, do you have a Twitter handle? Do you have other social media?
Yes. I have an author website, which is athenadixon.com. And that has links to my Twitter and my Instagram, but it also has publications and appearances I may do. Has a couple of my more recent work that I've published. I'm on Twitter at Athena Dixon. I'm not on Twitter very often. If you want to contact with me, mainly Instagram, because that's where I am most of the time. And for fan fiction, I'm on Tumblr. You send me an email, I'll send you my Tumblr.
Oh, that's awesome.
Has all my fan fiction on it. Yeah, mainly Instagram. But if you go to my website, it has like all of the information that you need to contact me, including my email address, and a contact form as well.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Athena, for
Thank
spending a
you.
little time with me tonight. And I'm really excited about all that's coming. Good luck in New York City. We can't wait to hear all about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.